So, English. The promise today was we start from zero, from an empty folder, and get the first agents running. And what the agents will be doing is they analyze user interviews and then they create a PRD. In the end, the purpose of the whole session is to show how easy that actually is and to lower the barriers. So if you are living in Claude Code already, you will not learn a lot. That's the warning. So really, I will not show any magic, no secret tricks. It's just for the people who don't know how to do this yet and who are sitting in front of Claude Code or not even sitting in front of Claude Code, hear all the stories about and say how do I get started? It's just to get started. Because in my experience, it's that most people are afraid of the command line interface and think they need to learn everything about Vim and strange command line tools, commands and all that. But in reality, the only you need to learn as a PM or strategist in Claude Code is the very word Claude. And I will show you that in a second. You do not need to learn anything else than that. You do not need command line at all. It just works in a terminal, which looks strange to us people who are used to apps. So that's why I will build up this very basic system from the beginning. There's a little bit of cheating involved, I think. I need to check if that works. Yeah, that checks, because I will talk a lot to the systems to speed up things. So that's why I can make it in 1 hour. I speak to the system rather than type every command. The other thing is that I will copy the interview files. I prepared them, and I will copy a PRD template, not the PRD that will be produced. So that will be the 2 moments of cheating. To show you that I'm really starting with an empty folder, this is the folder we're working on, LS. Well, I was coding 20 years ago, so I know still what LS means. It means list the content of this folder. There is nothing in it, so this is proof that I'm not cheating. Cool. How you would normally start Claude is by, typing Claude. That's not much of a thing. I now need to allow it to do all the kinds of stuff in my folder. I did that, and that's how it greets you. But this is not really convenient. That's why I will set up Claude in Cursor to be working with it. This is Cursor. What people call an IDE, integrated development environment. We don't need it for coding. We don't use it for coding. We will just use it for doing our product management stuff. So this is opened up in the same folder as before. It's called 0 to 1, same thing. Again, on the left side here, where my mouse is now hovering, if I had files in it, you would see it here. There's no files. Interesting. So what I will start now, I will go into the terminal. That's also what you need to do. So after this call, I will send you all the setup instructions so that you get to this point, no problem at all. So you will sit in front of the same window. It will have the same appearance to you. I will also send you the files that we produced today so that you can get started easily, even if you don't want to start from 0 to 1, but at 1. If you open Cursor, you will have this small tab which is called Terminal. It's the same thing that I showed you before. It's just a terminal. And I do the same thing. I type Claude. And here we go. It greets me with welcome back, Marcus. I am running it, as you see over here, on a very not small, but cheap model called Sonnet. For most of the things we're doing, it's okay to run on it. If you want to go deeper into speech and really have excellent speech and all that stuff, go to a more expensive model. You do not have to care about this right now. Looking in that more cheap model of Claude is totally fine. The one thing you need to have is to run Claude Code, you need to have a $20 per month license with Claude. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So the next thing we will do after the first stage that we went through now, which is just setting up the infrastructure, is that we need to have a little bit of structure in the folders over here. So now, right now, we only have one folder, which is called 0 to 1. To reap the benefits of working in Claude Code, we need to have a little bit of structure in it and a little bit of context. So the whole benefit of working in Claude Code rather than working in just a chat window is that we set it up with our work context. Who is our company? What is our strategy? What is my product I'm working on? Stuff like that, so that it can always refer back to that context rather than me having to copy paste it all the time. When you're sitting in front of ChatGPT or Claude, the chat window, you always are copy pasting stuff from your context files into it so that it knows more about you and your context. And then you create a document or anything, and chapter by chapter, you copy and paste stuff over. That's what you don't have to do anymore, which helps a lot of saving time, but also getting into more repetitive processes. So everything we're doing today, for example, can be automated. Also, as a shell script, you can call any of the things we're doing today up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if you had other agents, for example, a morning briefing, which tells you about what would be your most important actions today, because the thing can read all your Slack, all your mail, all your whatever stuff, you could have a script coming up with that report every morning that way. Anyways, that's complicated. We're not doing that. We're just getting started right now. How I will create that structure is that I produce some folders now. The first folder is called context. And in that, I will write the company information strategy, that the company we simulate today. Then, of course, we need some inputs. I did that wrong again. Move to trash. That's what I'm good at, moving things to trash. And input. This is why I put the user interviews too. Then I need something which is called scripts, which is where I put all the trivial stuff that I'm doing, all the cheap agents that I'm building, which are just prompts in MD files more. They end up in here. And then, of course, we want some output. We want some interview analysis and a PRD in the end today. And that belongs into a folder called output. That's what we have. To create the magic and to get started, as I said, we need some context. And now I will create 2 files in here. One file is called company MD. In that, I will store who the company is we're simulating today. And I will create a file, another one, which is called strategy MD. In that, I put the really cheap, simple, stupid strategy of that company. If you talk to me, you don't get me without a strategy MD file. So let's talk about who the company is we're simulating today. For that, I used the first time my cheap trick of talking to the whole thing, and I tell it to fill that document with that company information. Hey, Claude, see a file that is called company MD. Please fill it with the following content and improve it a little bit. Our company is called Neo Employee. We are an AI agent startup. All we do is build AI agents. The AI agents replace employees or employee skills. We go into companies as a consultant and identify the bottlenecks these companies have in their workflows and try to augment these bottlenecks with artificial AI agents, which replace those skills. We are doing that on a custom basis, time and material. The rest of the strategy will be found in the strategy file. And I did all that without giving it the right point. I had to do it in the terminal, so I do that once again. Hey, Claude, you see a file that is called company MD. Please fill it with the following company information. We are a company called Neo Employee. What we do is we build AI agents. Those AI agents replace employees or employee skills. We go into companies as consultants and identify the bottlenecks, the worst bottlenecks of these companies, and try to identify the missing skills or the skills that are not in place enough. For these, we then build the agents. We do this on a time material base. We do it all custom. We are not currently building AI agents as products, just as custom software. Now push this one, and hopefully it's entering this into the company MD file. In the middle pane here, you see the contents of these files. We will have a lot of time to discuss meanwhile, because Claude is often taking a lot of time to execute these commands. Lots of tokens are going here and there. What it now did is actually fill that company MD file with what I said. New employee builds custom AI agents, blah, 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 all the stuff I said. What you will see is it has quite a talent to structure the unstructured stuff I'm telling it. So that interface works really well. It's not having to do anything with the speech to text thing that I'm doing. It's really that it's getting that unstructured text that I'm sending it and making it much more structured. So let's do the same thing with a strategy file. We need a strategy for the company, and that's also kind of a no-brainer. As an AI startup, our strategy is really simple. I want you to document it in strategy MD, the file that you're seeing in front of you. The strategy is that right now we're bootstrapping as a time and material custom software company. We intend to build products later on, like any startup. That's our dream. We don't know if we get there. But the tendency is that we already have 2 out of our 14 people deployed in the background to find common ground between all the customers we're having. We try to find patterns of skills and agents that could be deployed in very different companies and build them as non-custom but product agents. We will not take up any bank credits. We are not looking for investors. We are following a total bootstrap strategy. That has impact on how we do our work, because currently our runway can only be extended by having enough work in our hands. So anything that is getting us money, we're doing right now as long as it is in the vision of our company. Same thing, fill in the strategy MD.
Markus,
yes.
In the chat, there is a request to move your camera to the other side of the screen, the little box, so we can see the Claude input a little bit better.
Let me see if I get it done like this, I guess. Cool, now we have a strategy MD file. Again, it expresses things probably way better and more differentiated than I did. Cool stuff. So now we created the context that will be reused over this session and over all future sessions whenever we talk about new employee. What I now need to actually go into interview analysis, which is just an example, is that I need to import some customer interviews, which I prepared over here. So that is the first cheating moment. I have them prepared here. These are 10 interviews, and basically these are dealing with a company which has problems in their sales department, which is spending a lot of time in actually qualifying all kinds of leads. And they can't get to their work because just identifying leads is taking up too much time. Very general problem in sales organizations these days. There's a little bit of back and forth between the interviews. If LinkedIn actually is the source of truth now, or if there are other worthwhile channels left. And another path in the background going on in the interviews is actually that the whole CRM system is just racked up. There was around 10 phases of getting deeper into it, and each one came up with new structures. So all of that is really racked up and not usable anymore, which is another time killer. As an example, here is, and you can also see that a little bit more pretty, here's one of the interview files with Sarah Jenkins, who has a prominent role because her sentiment is really, really depressed, which we will find out later on. So these are the interviews and the cheat about getting them in. You could also have any source of interviews. You could also just monitor Slack channels for sentiments and input for all your research you're doing. Just to keep it simple, I copied these files in here. What I want to do now is actually advise Claude to build an agent. And that's the magic trick. I want Claude to build an agent that helps us analyze these interviews. And I do it in a really stupid way in the beginning on purpose. So the way I do it is the following. Hey, Claude, in the folder input, you see 10 interview files. Please go over the 10 interview files and do an analysis about the sentiment of the interviewed people, the main problems, the main urgent problems, and the needs behind it. Please build a script in the scripts folder that is called interviewanalysis.md, and that's for it. Now, again, it takes a little while. We can chat, we can have a coffee. It will not take too long, probably 1 or 2 minutes. I don't know. You can also ask questions in between. I have the chat inside, so if anything comes up in the chat, I can answer in between. It's a little bit of an operation on the open heart, of course, and you see a little bit of the magic and the risk in doing that in short time. Like, I do not know what the thing is going to come up with. My experience is that there's kind of a useful script coming up. To give you a heads up of what's coming next, the result of that script in interview analysis will be okay, but it's not perfect. What you need to know about building agents, that's really not that much 0 to 1, but it's already 1 to 2, basically. So an advanced step is the further you break your scripts, or whatever you want to call it, down into specialized tasks, and the more specific and the finer the context is that you give it, the better the results are. You can switch to cheaper models, less improved models, by breaking down the tasks much further. So we will do that later on. Oh, he's doing it already rather than writing the script. So that's funny. Let's see what comes out of this. I have all kinds of effects with that. But normally it listens to me and writes the script first and then executes the script. Let's see what's going to come out of this. So the point really is that it's really important to later understand that breaking down into a lot of smaller steps is really improving the quality of your output. I think it's going to generate some output here right away in a minute. But we have some highlights here already. The sentiment is a table for all people plus an overall read. Main problems are manual research is selling time. The number 7 means 7 people mentioned that out of the 10. Urgent problems are rather than met with direct immediate revenue impact. Representatives can't hit activity targets closer and so on. The needs behind are pre-enriched contact profiles and so on. The analysis closes with a summary that names a single root cause all interviews point to, which also happens to be a clean description of an agent neo employee could build. Can you please transform what I just described into a repeatable file, which is called interviewanalysis.md in the scripts folder. What you will also see is that Claude takes very different amounts of time. So, for example, yesterday evening, it took ages for any request. It seems to be not super fast right now, but much faster than yesterday. In my observation, also, the quality of some results depend on the availability of backend resources. Okay, the file is now a reusable script. Let's see where it put it. It's here now. Okay, so this file basically is what you call an agent. You can talk to the thing and say, like, reuse this file interview analysis when you want to do the second analysis. So you get new interviews in, you can do the second thing. But I want to do something different now. I want to have it run first. Please run the script now for a test, because then in the end we will have results in the output, which we can verify and work with later on.
Markus, may I ask a question?
Sure.
You are now doing that all in the same context, right?
Yeah.
When you let it build a script and then say execute the script, is there some kind of caveat that all this happens in the same context?
I did not define the context yet in that script, so no. I will do that in the next step when I do the PRD thing. There I will explicitly pull in the context of company MD and strategy MD. So it didn't...
No, I mean not the context folder, but the context of this chat with a LLM.
Yeah. So what do you mean exactly? Like, I can't follow.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, doesn't the LLM take all the chat history basically into its context from which it uses to answer your questions? Or
from this session, yes, absolutely. So it remembers what we did in this session. Yeah.
Okay, so if you say, hey, build a script and then execute the script, is there some kind of, within the same context, is there some kind of influence to that?
No. It's smart enough, so you can make it easier for the thing to remember things more quickly. So you can set up a Claude MD file, for example, which explains, like, if you're looking for company knowledge, look at this file. If you look for this and that, look over here. These are the scripts we're having. You can also do things much easier by basically making commands out of the script so that you can simply call the commands and stuff, but that's kind of more like not really advanced, but not a 0 to 1 thing. So there's all kinds of things how you can make things more repeatable, more on the safe side and stuff. Yes, you can do all of that. But basically how I talk to it right now, the session is very short and it already figures all that stuff out. So that's not kind of the magic you need to imply to it or anything. It is that smart. So that's also really something in the beginning where you often wonder, like, how smart is the thing and how smart are the things I'm saying to it. Like right now, there's not a lot of smartness in the things I'm telling it. So most of the smartest comes from the model, actually. So here we have a first interview on analysis. So you see it wrote this file, like who was interviewed, what are the main problems, what are the main urgent problems, what are the needs behind it, and a summary in the back. The script ran cleanly and so on. So just to give you a heads up and get more critical in the time we're having, I wanted to improve the script now and do something different with it. The script interview analysis, MD, is very cool. Now let's do something different. Let's make sure the script is actually telling the agents to spin out and do the analysis of all the 10 files in parallel. So each of the files gets main attention by the machine and is more detailed. Then write an analysis of each of the interview individually into output. And then as a final step only, do a synthesis of all the different interviews. Again, the point is sentiment, main problems, urgent problems, and write a high-level summary of your findings in the end of the output file. And now it's improving that interview analysis file, doing what I just described before, trying to come down with smaller substeps. You could even go as far as giving the interviews several swipes and say, like, first do sentiment analysis, then look for the main problems you're seeing, then look for the needs you identify in the background of the problems mentioned, all that stuff. So, and the more you refine it fantastically, the better and improved the results of the output analysis become over time. He's actually running the agent. Today he's insanely proactive. Normally I need to tell him to actually run the script. He's just doing it. This is going to take some time because it's not like, that's also not what you most of the time have in your control, except if you're really, really explicit on the advice you're giving. So you can tell it that it really actually spawns 10 agents. You can go into depth of it. He's trying to do it. Obviously, sometimes it just spawns 2 or 5 agents. Again, you can be more specific on that. It basically does what you want if you are that specific. We don't need to care about this right now. I just want to show you that there's a difference in quality and analysis if you break this task into more tasks. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So it's still working. As you see in the output over here on the left side, where my face is actually hiding it, it's producing more and more output. I get rid of the input. And it's still cooking, as it says. It's through a couple of the interviews now. So also for you, I will send you the output of this in the post-prep email so that you can have a deeper look into the analysis. Because the striking thing for me all the time is that, like, we talk a lot about AI slop, and you don't have a chance to look deeply into the documents it's producing right now. But the further you, again, break down the tasks, the less it's getting AI slop. And the realization that I have all the time is the output can get strikingly well. And we always say, like, here are all the things that AI cannot do yet. My problem is that humans normally don't do that as well. So, for example, the PRD that you will get in the end might not be 100% great PRD. My problem is in real life, if I talk to a product manager, here are new interview research items. What is your analysis? The normal response I get is, let's talk in a week or 2. And I don't want to get rid of the PM at all. What I want to do is, I can now have the conversation in 5 minutes, starting with that PRD, with all the bias, with all the anchoring. I get it. But I can start the discussion today rather than in a week or 2 and have friction much earlier. We can even make the AI the enemy and say like, oh, this is all bullshit. I can do much better. Fine. If that's the start of the conversation today, I already won because I have a conversation today rather than in a week. And that's how I can speed up friction and response times and all that stuff in the whole process of coming up with a great product. So that's how I would always use it. And for you to be able to look into the deliverables that we create today, I will also send you the email in which you can read all of them so that you can have an impression of these outputs we're getting. So it's working on the analysis still. It will tell us here on the right side when it's done. Here, again, as I said, a lot of cooking coffee, coughing tea, having conversations with your colleagues, having another small stakeholder call or whatever you can do in between all these tasks. If you were a developer, you could even actually leave your desk for 10 minutes and actually grab a coffee and come back to see what it's doing. The level 5 AI native coders at Claude, what they're doing currently is that they're working with 5 to, 15 screens in parallel where they have all kinds of tasks open and doing all of that. So here's
another question, Markus.
Yeah.
So what is your experience? So for now we look more at qualitative output of the model. Now, if you really go into analysis, you will finally ask for some numbers. You get estimated for something, especially if you are working in the technical product space. What is your experience there? How well does that work? What would be your confidence in numbers that the model throws at you?
What kind of numbers do you mean?
Oh, if I say, please analyze this pattern for me and the improvement, how much more efficiency will the machine have? Just a very rough example.
Like you do have quantitative data and want to crunch the numbers with it and slice and dice the numbers and come to models and stuff? Is that what you're asking?
Well, the idea is that I want, for example, if I look at competitors and I say, hey, this competitor has a patent to improve a machine.
Yeah.
And I want, I ask the model, hey, give me an idea about what will be the improvement that they achieve with this machine.
Yeah, you will get very good results, but you would always be mistaken to trust it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Like the thing is always the human in the loop is the determinant. You can only work with the systems under the assumption that there's always a human in the loop giving direction and controlling the output. That's the whole point. Like it's not meant for replacing us. It's meant for augmenting us, giving us perspective. And like I'm just building this system not with the purpose of, we have a PID in the end. I give it to, like this interview analysis, I could actually hone into and say like, but here's my opinion. And that then changes the outcome of the PID process in the end. So that's how it's meant to be. Always human in the loop, never trust the thing. But always like the results are still most of the time strikingly good and not to be ignored. Like that's another important thing. So,
okay, so at least you would say it's at least a strong indicator.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So let me talk to the thing again, because now we have the analysis of this, and I will ask it, in your impression, if you compare the results of the two runs, which run went better, which run presented more quality results? And normally if we look into it, like we have deeper analysis of the especially sentiment side of things. And the reason is that rather than looking at a whole bunch of stuff at one time and huge context, it goes through context piece by context piece by context piece, and it is much more careful in that. Like the metaphor I have to that is that if you hand a person a manual for a machine or something and say like, the solution is here, it's really tedious for the person to find the solution. If you tell the person, here's a manual, look at section 5.3, that's the solution to your problem. Of course, you're much faster. And that's what we're doing with choosing context and breaking down tasks and all of that. That's what other people are calling context management and stuff, which is important in the more advanced stages. But right now, cool stuff. Now I want the PID to be written. And that's the next cheat moment. Let me see where I have it. I have resource here, which is a template of a PRD, which I will copy to the new system, and I put it into scripts right away. That might not be the tidiest way, but it's Wednesday morning. Who cares? And now I tell it to write a script that actually writes a PRD. Hey, Claude, that was really cool. Now we have a proper interview analysis. What I want you to do next is write a prdwriter.md that actually gives us output of a PRD. Write the prdwriter.md in a way that it pulls in our specific company context in company MD and our strategic context in strategy.md. Make it reflect on our latest interview analysis and propose a product in that PRD, which is a quick fix which we can sell quickly to our client. In the end, after respecting the PRD structure in the template I gave you in my PRD template, give us a summary of what that product looks like in the end. Really high level. Let's see if I was too sloppy in explaining the whole thing. Again, what I want to show you is, except the magic trick with talking to it, you can have it write the resources you need. You can have it adjust your system to what you want it. That's actually the superpower of the thing, that you can have it actually build the machine that you want to use. Whatever small mistakes happen along the way, no problem. You can fix it in the next iteration, which I did in the last script, if you want, which was like, oh, this interview analysis is not really up to my standards. Let's try to improve it. Actually, what I could have done in the interview script thing is I could have asked it for suggestions on how to improve the process, and it would have suggested ways to improve the whole process to me. Funny enough. I have everything now. I write the script and immediately execute it, produce the actual PRD. I'm happy that it does that. Any questions in between? Because as long as it's Julianing, as it says, I'm really bad at...
Can you show us a look into my PRD template, please?
Oh, wait a second. Describe the problem we are trying to solve in 1 to 2 sentences, high-level approach, narratives, optional, goals, describe high-level goals, non-goals, what are we not going to do, key features, plan of record, key flows that should be shown, milestone planning, operational checklist, and other stuff. And I overrode that a little bit with the advice I gave it in the beginning. You could have any stupid thing in here. For example, you could even start with no PRD template and just say PRD template, because the model somehow knows what a PRD is and it would come up with a more random PRD structure. Another thing, I just wanted to give it more direction and, show repeatability of templates and stuff like that. So you don't actually need it. That's kind of the fun thing. As just in the interview analysis, I didn't tell it too much what I wanted to be, and it came up with a much stronger structure than I gave it, actually, as you can see here. Like, yes, I gave it that I want to have sentiment analysis and all that stuff, but the structure of problem 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that stuff, none of that was explicitly given by me. So it has an idea of what an interview analysis should be. You can always start from that. And again, if you don't like it, give it more structure. I always start from stupid just to get started, look at the results, and then improve it, because basically that means I just invest time into my system.
Thank you.
Ingo, I see a question.
Hi, Marcus. Hi, everyone. Wondering, at which point do you start implementing automatic loops? For example, right now you told the thing that is writing the PRD and the PRD writer to look into the company and strategy documents. I guess that at some point you will implement some sort of loop that will automatically do that for you whenever you create a new sub-agent or something that handles a task, that you don't have to instruct it, because then you could forget to mention a certain document it should reference, right? So do you do that in the end when everything is set up, or do you do that in between?
Yeah, I do that in between, but especially on automatizations. I only do that for high repeatability things. For example, if I had a daily brief that I want, or competitor analysis that I want on the table every morning, I would highly automate this, basically. And for that, again, like a good place is an Agent MD or a Claude MD, where you give it all these advice. But honestly, like, my work honestly is not that repeatable. So I am more upstream in strategy, and I know I work more with CPOs and stuff, so they are more into day-to-day tasks rather than a lot of repeatability. So I'm not automating a crazy lot. For example, like I would not automate writing a PID writer. I would tell the system where it finds which resources, like I said, in Claude MD or something like this. So let's see. Oh, here we already have so here's the PID writer. That is the script it created. What's interesting is like it got my inputs, load and read the following files before writing anything. Company MD, strategy MD, output should go here. Instructions, derive the product proposal, write the PID template. Let me see if it, or let's look for this in the output in the PID. If it really came up with an easy to sell approach in the end of the file, because that was my main concern. I want to sell now. Sales brief agent is replace a manual pre-call research skill currently performed by every sales and so on. Operational checklist is here from all the stuff before. Key features, buying signal monitor, prospect brief generator, CRM enrichment, write back. That seems to somehow work. Now I want to have the last step done. I want to have a prototype now. I want to see what the whole thing is. I don't understand it. So I tell it the following thing. Please, from the PID that you just created, create an HTML type. It can be really raw, just wireframe. Please also give me some explanations of what the prototype highlights. When the prototype is done, open it up in a browser. And now we have time again. Somebody wrote that obviously knows what he's talking about. That's good to know. Yeah, Dirk, that's kind of, I think that is the art. So what Dirk says, I would rather give it more context, at least when programming. I think the art is really like, that's an advanced topic you're touching there. Like the art really I see with developers and the stuff that I'm doing is like, how much context does it need? And when is it too much? And when does the context window break? Sorry, that's going that advanced. So when the context window breaks, you get a lot of hallucinations and bullshit. You can observe that when you're having really, really long chats with any LLM, that it just breaks down. The example I gave 2 weeks ago was in my running world, when I chat with it for a long time, it just makes stuff up. So it sees a weak run. It says like, oh, no wonder you had a weak run because you were sick 2 weeks ago. And honestly, wasn't sick 2 weeks ago. It just makes that up. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? And then it just goes iterating and is being kept in a loop where it says like, no, you were sick 2 weeks ago. I'm like, no, I wasn't. So that's kind of crazy when context goes wild. So I think, as I said, the art is giving it the right context, not too much, not too little. While the thing is still frolicking, Ludwig, you raised your hand.
I wonder, and the more I give to the LLM, the less what's your experience in being able to make decision and work with the material if it's all presented by the LLM. So what's the way you work with the LLM? Is it assisting and you just read the output and that's like saving you time? How do you manage your context now that the language model also does some work?
I think what I observe with most people is that, and that's also what you see in development. Like if you look at the Shapiro levels of coders coding, like level 5 being black magic more or less, and just being done at Claude and OpenAI themselves. From level 0 to level 4 is more and more trusting the machine and learning that trust. And that's more of a psychological barrier. And then really looking at the output rather than the process itself and improving the machine so that the output gets better. But that's what they look for in their maturity journey in using that. So it is very natural that in the beginning we want to have control over everything, but the more and more you work with the thing, you know where you can trust and where not, and you only look at the outputs over time. Like, and what you try to do is basically improving. What you're doing basically is improving the production line, and I think that's also kind of a major thing of what's happening with jobs. Like a designer will not be the person pushing the pixels, which he shouldn't have ever done any. For example, if a designer's work on a design system, that a design system works in the future is like the quality of the design system is it produces better output through the agentic system. Like it should look the same, but the output is easier and better to create for the production machine by the better input of a better design system. That's kind of, I think, how jobs change. Same for the product manager. The product manager should be, and that is what the coders are looking for in how they work. They try to get to better ways of getting to better specifications. Oh, that was the Shapiro guy, funny enough. So we have actually the prototype here. Yeah, anyways, so the point is get to better specifications so that the machine can work better, and you're basically controlling the specifications and indirectly through the specifications, the output. Same here. I want to have a better strategy analysis. I prepare better input for it to actually do that. I prepare better scripts, but I don't control the process as much. And what you learn over time is to give it more advice on output that you want and output quality and the goals you're having rather than on how to do it. So today I told it a lot and I shouldn't actually do it. I should just tell it like, I want a high quality PRD that's oriented on the template, blah, blah, blah. Just fucking do it, basically. It would probably erase the fucking, but it would do the rest. And that's how we should talk to these systems. So here's kind of a prototype it did, just like that. It is that sales overview thing it's giving. Actually, it's even clickable, which I didn't want. It's way beyond what I wanted it to do. So I just wanted it to be a very raw wireframe prototype. It never does that somehow. It always comes up with these way too fancy prototypes. So I come back because it gives me some briefing on what it is. Layout is a 2-panel digest view. The priority logic is visible. Prospects 1 to 2, 3 are flagged as high because they carry multiple or strong signals for hiring. The brief itself, clicking any prospect shows current role and tenure. Anyways, all I want to show is if you have a PRD, even if it's self-produced, you can have a prototype in a minute. You don't have to negotiate it for a week with whoever does prototypes in your organization. You just have a first one. You can have your first stakeholder conversation right. It is an option. You don't need to do it. It is relatively high quality. It is something you can discuss with people. You can tone down the quality by talking to it more. And that's more or less the end of the presentation. Let me try to better model here and also go out of this crazy, you can only see me view. I have a bit of vanity, but not that much. Yeah, so should have changed. Because like most people will leave now as the benefit was done. So I want to repeat that. Let me fix the technology here. This is a thing going on in Berlin. I told it in the beginning. There is an AI camp going on. There is a 10% discount on it. It will be in the follow-up email. I will come up with a program on how to work with these systems. The system itself, Claude Code, will be the side thing. The thing will be product work in that new world with these systems. It starts March 13. If you want more information, it's also going to be in the final email I'm sending tomorrow. That was the commercial break. But from here on, let's discuss for the last 10 minutes. We have what more you need, what questions are open discussion. Free time, I guess. Let me know. Open the mic and just ask.
Hi.
Oh, Simona, you're never shy. That's great. Yeah, just get it kicked off.
And I just don't know enough. Honestly, I haven't looked into it. I have avoided so far to give Claude any kind of personal identifiable information, like the names of the people from the interviews, for example, like real strategy input or stuff like that, because I'm not sure like how much of it gets stored in their servers when I give it context or like let it work on my prompts. Like, you have a take on that?
Yeah, my take is that, like, just to be sure, like all the stuff I worked with today was just made up. Like none of that is real. Normally I work with companies, and it might sound like a privilege. I only work with companies who have a very open policy about this anyways, because right now there's no way you can advance in these ways without just sending your data to these monoliths. Like there's no way around it. You can have all the locally hosted models. I also have locally hosted models over here on my machine in Olama, like a couple of them. But it's hard to get to the real quality benefits that Claude Opus 4.6 is giving you, which is kind of part of the advancements which we saw over the last months. Like the jumps ahead that people are observing and are totally enthusiastic about are really coming from these models. no one of us is a huge fan of the companies. No one knows what's happening with what you feed into it. Some are really feel it's safe, some are not. You have really paranoid legal departments about it, not so paranoid legal departments about it. When I work with a company, I follow their direction, but basically I currently with the work I'm doing, I can only work with companies who are really open about it and so send all that stuff on their own into it, except for example, when I work with HR companies, they have locally hosted models, which they send all the HR data into and they don't expose it to the outside world. But I think that is totally context dependent how you deal with it. It's also totally personal opinion. Like I personally, I was never a huge fan of my idea is great and should be protected. Nobody can, like, an idea has no value. Strategies don't have value. Every strategy out in the open can be copied. And normally when a strategy is hard, it's not going to be copied because it's hard and because it's differentiating. So I personally do not have any issues with that. I think it's a little bit fake that when I publish my strategy, people will just do it. Like the Tesla strategy was open for 15 years and nobody copied it ever, because it's just hard to do. That's my take, but it's a very personal take, and I totally respect and understand and think every other take is totally legit. It's a really personal thing how to deal with all that stuff, or a company.
Or a regulated thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
anyways. Yeah, sure.
if you're a health insurance company, you can't just like upload patient data, or
Yeah.
as a coach, I cannot just upload transcripts from coaching sessions that are confidential.
Yeah, absolutely. Dirk says only the paranoid survives. A little bit of
Hi, Markus.
self-protection there. Yeah, hi.
Hi, Simonetta. While we're talking about this, because it's also a problem that we have for interview transcripts, that they, for all kinds of reasons, should never leave these servers. And I just checked if you would use Qwen 3, 72B plus, this model, which Claude suggests as the best, which would also create such a good analysis quality as Claude, the server would cost from the setup 23,000 to 33,000 euros that you would have for a small team of 10 people using it. And if you run it on AWS Bedrock, it would be a monthly cost between, I don't know if it's true, 500 to 2,000 euros a month, usage-based. I don't know if it's true. Someone else might be able to speak to that because I saw it in the chat. So after 2 years, your own server would become cheaper. So these are the quick numbers that I crunched here. But it's a problem. We also have that. Well,
Yeah, and I think what we don't know is basically how token prices increase, because like nobody knows the business model behind it, and I don't know, like there's a whole host of topics behind it, honestly. Also, like hosting models seems to become cheaper. Creating models doesn't seem to be that much cheaper over time. Who knows? Like, yeah, but the fun part about it is like we don't have a lot of that in our hands somehow. So more questions.
Well, I was wondering for yourself, you talked about having a running system that is about running and sport. Do you usually separate your topics in, like, let's say, different AI vaults, or do you have one huge one with subfolders and you have certain skills or agents that only access certain folders? Or like many people are talking about building a personal OS, so to say, for themselves. And I'm wondering, in your system, is it all stacked together, or do you separate these things?
No, I separate them simply for personal hygiene. And again, that's a personal thing. Like I have a lot of Chinese walls between my work, my different clients, and myself. Even to the point of a business model, like which business model do I engage with what client? Is it time material? Is it a retainer? I try to stay healthy by keeping things a little bit apart. These contexts or walls, as you say, apart. Also, like the needs are really very different on these. So I don't see value for mixing them, depending on the totally different, at least. Cool. More questions? If not, I again can only encourage all the people to engage in the community. A personal thing, like this is a wild time. It's a cool wild time. I like those times. It's the fourth revolution, as I always say, that I experience in my work life. I think it doesn't help anybody not to lean in, and all the people who leave in the early opportunity windows will most of the time benefit. It's not a guarantee, but from my point of view, it's the only chance. So engage in it however you want, boost the community, go to the AI camp, book a course with me if you need it. If you don't need it, it's also fine. Send me feedback. What's missing for you? Yeah, Cologne is strong. Munich is strong. You're right, Simonetta. Like, look at your locals, what they are doing. Send me feedback on what you need, what the next call should be about. I think the next call is more about all the opportunities behind it rather than just showing the system, like what could be done with the system, and ask me anything about that. And with that, thanks a ton for being here, for signing up, and expect my email to you. Thanks a lot. Yay. Thanks. Pretty. Bye.